when we started doing films, I think what happened was that the one time that we made an application to the British Film Institute, they said they didn't trust our narratives, our personal narratives. So they said that if it was attached to perhaps a piece of literature, that might be the better route to go. And I think that we've tended to follow that excuse. The irony of the British Film Institute was that although they wanted a so-called narrative, they didn't quite realize that Bruno Schulz really is the most wayward unnarrative person, writer you could have. Really from 1985, when we did Street of Crocodiles, that we've tended to use to ground all our fictions with writers whom we've always seen as the writers that we've always chosen have tended to be slightly on the margins of literature. So the Walsers, the Bruno Schulzes, and the Felisbertos, although now I think they're very, very popular and well read. It's I still think it's something that we find a great depths that we can, as it were, descend into to map our own kind of narratives. I think that we should really say that the works are inspired by these writers, but at the same time, I think we really penetrate and adhere to their fictions, but that we try to transpose it from the written word to the image, using image and sound and music to interpret those literary works. Probably more than even Schulz and Walser and Felisberto's attention to the object is something that really fascinated us and we felt very at home with. So they become these transitional spaces that take you much. The objects become a sort of animistic sideshow where they really blossom.
Y en el momento de ver el agua, entre el vidrio del vaso y la poca luz de la penumbra, se imaginó que la misma agua se había ingeniado para acercarse y poner un secreto en los labios que iban a beber.
In the construction of the decors, that is where you then discover something less tangible or more tangible, but it's something that for us the camera discovers, and then eventually the sound meets that as well. So but we're constructing worlds from nothing, from scratch. I mean, from balsa wood, from metal, and it's not like going out into the street or going to a massive studio where all these things are being made by other people. Yeah, it's all done here. But in terms of building the decors and doing the lighting and doing the camera and the montage, these are the elements where you feel that it's your own personal, becomes a laboratory for discovery. No, I mean, the decor is for us is the poetic vessel for the entire film. Everything is funneled into what it looks like and
how it's perceived by the camera or captured by the cameras.
And I think we've always sort of felt that the puppets are, they enter these spaces totally. They haven't foreseen them. They have no sense of what their purpose is, and they try to navigate these spaces. And of course, it permits all these, as what I think what the surrealists so well talked about was the chance encounter, or these fugitive encounters where the unexpected is so powerfully there, and then pushes the puppets into.
It's exactly what you don't find in a domestic household, which we never filmed.
Because I think that, like, for instance, we'd say on a Tim Burton set, which we visited once, and there's like 30 different animators, you're not allowed to make a mistake. And for us, mistakes can sometimes be really crucial in, you decide you're not going to go in that direction, but you have to go this direction or that, so that the mistake becomes, it opens up.
It's a liberation of the mistake.
But I think it's a way that for us, that our approach to filming a subject, it's not cast in stone, you know, there's points that we arrive at, and then you're just discovering as you go along. A lot of the times you're not quite sure, you have a hunch where you're going, but you're not always sure what it is until you actually start building the decor and lighting it and creating the atmosphere. And then you think you're there. You find that very specific points that you want. The Institute Benjamin is the closest we've ever, because we did write a very, very detailed script. Mm-hmm. I mean, we tightened it up, but essentially it blended the novella Institute Benjamin with several short stories, like some of his fairy tales, what was it, Sleeping Beauty. And some other short stories of his and then we sort of shook but I think it's it's still the one where I think we've respected their narrative, because we thought it was beautiful, it was fantastic and open at the same time.
I mean, when we were visiting Switzerland to meet it was a lawyer who owned the estate of Walser at the time, and he took us out to lunch, and he said at one point, "I want you to do for Robert Walser what you did with Bruno Schulz." And we thought that was such a lovely provocation.
Yeah, coming from a lawyer.
A lawyer.
You don't expect
a businessman.
That. Or
The mountains, the air, the cloud, the sky.
I know that's something that we like in other people's work, is that space to create your own narratives and fill in. I think that's really important. I mean, of course, everybody likes a well-made film and a beautiful script. We all go, hats off, brilliant, like that. But sometimes there's those works which stray outside the boundary lines, which are really intriguing, and that's the ones we like. The title of the Gilgamesh film,
This Unnameable
Little Broom. That's because it was a pilot film for a larger project around the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Sumerian legend, and there we chose I think Tableau 2 as the starting point, and it was basically about Gilgamesh who patrols his kingdom, as it were, because we had just gone through we had let our passport mistakenly lapse, being Americans, and we hadn't renewed it, and we were given a letter saying we had 30 days to leave the country, and we had to get these lawyers to help us out and that sort of thing. But of course, we had a official number that we were given, our case number. So that's what we put as the visa control at the beginning of the film, was our case number. And when we said also the film was the little songs for the chief officer of Hunar Laos, we took the Hunar, which was really Hunar Laos, and we took the L and the H, and it was really Lunar House, which is where all passport control activities were done here in England, where you stayed in the country or you got thrown out. So we thought we'd put that into the film as it's what's happening now. Immigrants, asylum seekers being thrown out of the country, deported at the drop of a hat by this government. So, and in terms of the Stanisław Lem Maska, that was really a commission from the Polish Cultural Institute. Who actually wanted us to do one of the robot stories. And in the original collection, there were only 10 stories in the Polish edition, but the American translation added 2 extra stories, which we just presumed were part of the robot stories. And we chose Maska, and of course the Institute said, that's not in the robot stories, but they accepted that. For us, it was a much more impressive story, and they let us do it, so that's... We didn't want to shoot the Las Hortensias in live action. We wanted to create a puppet realm, and it is about a man collecting life-size dolls. I know you would get that extra dimension of a kick.
Had it been a live action.
Had it been a live actor with a mannequin. But I think we made enough distinction between our main character that we could navigate that, but maybe some people don't think that. Christopher helped, and he said, why don't I'll commission you to make a new film on condition that you make it in 35. You can have any choice of subject matter and no longer than 30 minutes. So we presented him with the Felisberto text, and he said, again, we wrote a really detailed script, and then he said, I didn't understand the thing, but then I don't mind because, this is what I expect from you guys. As for the question about the Freudian thing about unheimlich, I think that's...
The uncanny.
It's the uncanny, but I think the surrealists also courted that area, and I think it's just something that the fantastic has always dealt with, is to when the strange and the eerie become, move as an undercurrent, and that's something I think we've always liked.
It's very much what Walser was talking about in the Zwischenwelt, the in-between worlds. So I think that we're always courting over and under. And
puppets, by their very nature, are, because there's that sense of that they're inhabited, and that there's that sense of otherness in them, that you already court the uncanny with So it's not like we have to do a lot of extra work. We just have to make a good puppet, and you have to animate it well, and then you're already, you're scoring the uncanny right away. And I think added to the stories of say a Walser or say a Felisberto, there's a much more pensive, much more what's the word? A kind of it's not advancing with big narrative strides. There's a lot of space to create these poetic realms or these atmospheric realms where the object does get liberated from. It does have its inner life that you're made aware of.
There's no formula for it. It's just
And I think also, with live action doesn't seem to it's very reluctant to let the object speak in a way, because they're rushing on to the next shot, or
the dialogue.
The dialogue is telling you you've got to move on, and you've got to have that close-up of Meryl Streep or there, and we don't need that object, just enough to register. Whereas I think we like to explore the secret, the more secretive, in the half shadow area where objects really operate and can be very strong and powerful, and animistic and
that's where they nest in the shadows. I think that's an area that we like to explore very much. Still Not One was meant to be selling steel wool, which is what the iron filings are. And we discovered that somehow we were playing with it, and we had a magnet, and we just suddenly saw that we could animate the filings. So that was the genesis of that film. Again, an accident.
The first part you had to do is...
No, I'm just talking about this one. This is one they're seeing.
Yeah.
So in effect, Stille Nacht is also the famous song Silent Night, and Walser died on Christmas Day, and so that was the reason.
And there was also a piece of music by Alfred Schnittke that we were really fond of, who did a theme based around Silent Night, Stille Nacht, which is, I think, why all those connective points made us. And then, so at the end, I think the credit goes to Walser when he was in Herzog at the asylum, and he made that final walk, but it was just a homage. And then Stille Nacht 2 was essentially a commission, a pop promo, but we just gave it the subtitle of the second Stille Nacht, because we wanted to do them in black and white, and they were sort of, what did you say?
We said they were sort of advertising films, that Stille Nacht 2 was advertising ping pong balls and rackets. Where technology fails. We don't rely too much on technology. But yes, I guess we do something.
Yeah.